I'm going to move into another question that, again, I see a lot of, and I get this in my coaching practice from women. There'll be women who are upset, heartbroken about being with a man. I've been with him for 3, 4, 5, 7 years. Never wanted to get married. Didn't even know if he wanted children or whatever that dialogue looked like. And then they break up. And then 6 months, a year down the track, he's married with kids. Why does that happen?
So, look, I'm not the expert in this field, but speaking from experience as a man, I think for me, I had commitment issues. I always thought to myself, geez, once I'm married, like that's it, my life's over sort of thing. It was always this like deep fear of commitment. So quite often though, I would end up in a serious relationship. And I think I was in those relationships because deep down I knew that they weren't it. But I felt lonely. I had wounding. I had trauma, and I wanted someone there. I wanted someone to come home to and someone to be there. But deep down, there was a knowing that they're not it, and that's why I would always hold off from going any further. It was just a temporary fix, sort of, so to speak. So that's where, from my experience, and it wasn't. I only can put that together now, looking back. I didn't know at the time. So the man might not even know he's doing that. It was only once sort of we met and I realised what a true relationship is, and it was only a few months in where I wanted kids, I wanted the family, I wanted marriage. There was no doubt about it. When I looked back, I was like, I was able to reflect and go, that's what it was. I was filling a void, and it wasn't really because I wanted to be with them deep down.
That's interesting. So I have a harder question then. As your now wife. So you said part of that was you were afraid of commitment, and that makes sense, especially in certain age brackets. You know, I think it takes a lot of maturity for a man, which is why I wouldn't recommend getting married in your 20s. It's very young. You have a lot of growing to do. Your prefrontal cortex isn't even fully developed until you're 25. So getting married in your early 20s it's not common, right? And so I understand, and I don't see anything wrong with a man being afraid of commitment in his 20s. I see it being a little bit more problematic when we're getting into like our late 30s. So then my question is, was part of the reason that it worked for us was that you were now at a stage where you had the emotional maturity and the bandwidth to hold a relationship, or were there other variables at play?
I definitely think part of it was an age factor and just maturing. With my mum and dad's separation, I held a lot of trauma. I was terrified. When my mum left my father, and I also had my best friend at the time, his girlfriend of 3 years left him the very next day. So I had my dad and my best friend like crying in my arms, and I was just like, I never, ever want to experience this, because there were two like really strong figures in my life that I just saw broken. And so that trauma carried with me for a long time, where I was in fear of commitment, in fear of love, because love hurts. That's what I saw. And then it got to a point where I had to do my own healing, and that I had some relationships, but that's not really where the healing happened. It was, I always needed something to do. If I wasn't in a relationship, I needed to be out of the country. I needed to travel. I needed to be doing something that was going to get the adrenaline going. I was always, skydiving or doing high adrenaline, riding motorbikes, jet skis, just anything I can do to keep myself busy and distracted. When I was living in Bali, it came to a point where I was so happy on my own. Like I was doing my thing. I was focused on my business and my career, and I was living my life. And I really just sat down and like, man, I'm just so happy on my own. I'm not running from myself. So I think part of that was just time, but also being focused on my own goals and building my own empire. That allowed me to almost heal, in a sense, where it got to the point where, you know what, this is great. I feel awesome, but also I'm open. And, that's when I had a conversation with my mum just before we met. And I said to her, Mum, you know what, I'm so happy on my own. I don't think I'm ever going to get married. I'm loving life. And then you walked into my life and tipped it upside down in the best possible way. So, yeah, there's a lot to it. There's had to work through a lot of things, to I guess be ready for a relationship like ours. But it came at the right time. Timing is also a big thing.
I like that. And I think that's important for people to hear, is that timing does play a role. Like we talk about how, we wish we would have met each other earlier. And then sometimes we're like, no, we don't, because I was a hot mess expressed in my 20s. I would have,
So was I.
we would have been so volatile. That's why when I see couples in their 20s and they have so much maturity, I'm like, so much respect, so much props, because that was not me. In my early 20s, I was toxic. I was a spoilt brat in relationships, and I had a lot of expectations, and I wasn't bringing much to the table. And as a woman, I think what you bring to the table isn't material, it's energetic. And I was an energetic mess. So I think timing does have something to do with it. And the reason I asked the question was because some women feel like they've invested all of their best years into a man, into a relationship, and then in the end, he doesn't want to be with them. And he's like, why wasn't it me? So what I'm hearing from you is, one, it's a timing thing. He didn't have the maturity and the bandwidth at the time. But also the other thing is if you have been pressuring him for commitment, that is a really good way to disengage the masculine. You might be able to manipulate a weaker man or a more feminine man who's going to finally give you what you want, but a masculine man wants to feel like it was his decision. So from day one, if you've been saying marriage is what I need, this is what I expect from you, a masculine man will naturally pull away from that. So he might have been ready, but your like insistent pushing would have pushed
red flags for him.
Red flags.
He's just gonna run. He's gonna like, nah. It's a turn off. It repels. So, I mean, what we had early on before we were actually official, where we had that time we went out for your birthday. And so for any women listening that want to know what boundaries are and how to actually get a man to make a decision if he's going to, it's not standing for anything that you don't want in a relationship. If he's not going to commit, or he's not doing the right things that you want him to do, if he's going out with the boys until 3 a.m. and doing things that you don't want to do, like that's a boundary where it's like, no, I don't have time for that. So I wasn't in that situation, but I had some friends that were pretty messed up, and they were around us. And just for me having those people around us, you were like, I can't entertain that. I've got a daughter at home. You don't drink, you don't party. And that was enough for you to go, I'm not going to entertain this. And
this
willing to walk
me.
away. This isn't it for me. You were willing to walk away. And that, for me, was like, wow, I'm not the man I need to be to hold down the woman that I want to spend the rest of my life with. It was a big realization. And, I hadn't fully closed that door. It was just sort of lingering between two worlds. So it was that having that boundary and be willing to walk away and not settle. That was enough for me to go, hey, I need to lift my game. So as a woman, if you do that, the man is either going to lift his game or he's going to run, and then Either way,
he's doing you a favor. Yeah.
Either way,
I absolutely love that. And it's one of the pieces of advice that I give to women is your job is not to tell your man what you need from him and what expectations you have of him. That is such a turnoff. That's you being too direct and in your masculine. Men don't hear your words. They will feel your distance. So what I say to women is if you see potential in him and he does something that is not what you want for your life, it is not about sitting him down and being like, this hurt me. I need you to do this. I feel like this. Literally, with so much grace, be like, it was such a pleasure meeting you. That's what I said. I'm like, it was so nice meeting you, but this isn't for me. I wasn't asking you to change, because me asking you to change, if you were a strong masculine male, you'd be like, why is she trying to change me? But you felt my distance and you felt my absence. And it wasn't, I didn't give you an ultimatum. I didn't give you rules. It was, this is not for me. And I really hope for more women, and my intention for more women is that they know their worth so much and they know their boundaries so well that when someone violates them, it's not an emotional thing. You don't have to yell at people. And that's the other thing. For men, a good way to gauge if you've got a woman, is she emotionally volatile? If she is, you probably got her. If she can walk away with grace and maybe even a note. She's over you. This woman has no time for you. But if she's yelling at you and throwing things at you, you still have you are triggering her. And it's the woman that you cannot trigger that is in the power position. And this is why I teach women on emotional intelligence, because if you can regulate your own emotions, if you can create your own internal safety, if you can be so confident in yourself that either men will respond to you in a way that feels good for you, or you're happy to remove yourself, if you can do that without it creating this internal storm, you win. You will win every single time. You will win in business. You will win in your relationship. You will win in your parenting. I'm still working on that one. I feel like I know how to regulate myself so well in business, so well in our relationship, but my kids,
No bigger
you know
teacher
what
than
it's like.
kids.
Yeah. They're my mirrors, and
If I could throw
forever
something
grateful.
in there as well, is that, like, I know certain guys, some toxic men, who literally that's a tactic to keeping women under control. It's a tactic to keep them guessing, to keep them sort of pushed away and always wanting to win them over and win them back. It's literally a tactic. Treat them mean, keep them keen. It's a saying that's gone around since I was a kid, and it's literally used by some men. So, you know, if you're experiencing that, you don't entertain it. You don't have time for it.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that also points to, if you are constantly being engaged in relationships like this, where the man is giving you a little bit and then keeping a distance, for me, that can look like him almost borderline love bombing you or giving you a great in-person experience, and then he doesn't message you for days, or you don't know what's going on, or he's emotionally distant. And you can feel that intuitively as a woman. You can feel that. If this is constantly happening, understand that that's pointing to something that you need to heal within you. Like, which parent did that to you? Which caretaker felt distant? Which one felt mysterious? So when I look back at my early dating life, I dated and even the crushes I had, I was attracted to boys I couldn't figure out. I was attracted to boys that felt mysterious, that I didn't really know what he was up to. Well, how does that relate to my early childhood? I didn't know much about my dad. He was like this, I see a shadow, and I can't even picture his face. There was so much mystery around him. And if I were to go back into the little Mars, who would have very naturally, biologically wanted her daddy, he's this mysterious person. Who is he? Where is he? And it's that distance and that let me prove my good enoughness so that you can give me attention manifests in our relationships. So if you're constantly in relationships where you feel like the guy is keeping you at a distance, where he's not fully choosing you, understand that's because you're not fully choosing yourself. I understood that after I ended the relationship with my daughter's father, that I had a lot of healing to do. So I totally went inward, and I knew I had to choose myself. And I practiced a little bit before you came along so that I could get good at holding up a boundary and walking away. That was the thing that I needed to get good at, was walking away when I knew in my body that this wasn't okay. Because in that relationship with her father, first date, I knew there was a slight feeling in me that this man wasn't truly seeing me, that he was invalidating my goals and making them sound almost silly compared to what he was doing. And that he was emotionally unavailable. And I felt that. But then when I looked at him on paper and all the boxes, well-traveled, executive, cultured, multiple languages, all of the things that were so, and it's almost embarrassing to say that now, all the things, and I'm sharing it because I know there's a lot of women that still have those boxes. And I'm telling you now, you could have all those boxes met and still feel like you are alone and you are not seen and you are being neglected. And that's exactly how I felt in that relationship. But because I didn't trust that intuition, I didn't choose myself. I chose the piece of paper and the boxes. I ended up in a very...
You chose the IQ, not the EQ.
Yes, I chose the IQ, right? I chose the things that on paper would be a masculine male. But here's the thing. Oh, this is so important. I need women to hear this. When a man is successful, he can be successful for multiple reasons. One of them is that he has done enough development and he has achieved those through his work ethic, through his character, through his relationships, and he's done so ethically. The other way a man can be successful is that he is very ego-driven. He's trying to prove himself and he will knock down anybody to get there. When you are partnered with someone like that, you will never be treated like a queen. You will never be treated like a prize. You will always just be somebody on his arm. And to me, money is one piece of success, but it's certainly not the whole piece. And I see so much crap advice online about all men cheat. You might as well pick someone that has money. It's like, if you want to believe that, cool. But is that what you want to believe? Because unless you're saying that males are the inferior sex, then you have to go with the same rationale and say that then all women cheat in some regard. So is that the type of relationship you want, where you both essentially cheat on each other? Cheating can be physical, emotional, but cheating can also be not respecting your man and not admiring him and looking to somebody else and admiring that man. To me, I could never do that, because that feels like what we have is not real. And so when we hyper focus on the money and we don't see the real character of the man, because there's multiple ways to get to that end result. So it's not about the end result. The end result, yes, it matters. It can be a sign of his work ethic, but it can also be a sign that he didn't do things ethically. And so I didn't discover this until my early 30s, or really what choosing myself meant. And what choosing myself meant was very similar to what the place you got to when you had a discussion with your mom. And that was, okay, if I don't have a relationship moving forward, I'm actually going to be okay. And my priority became Aaliyah, and my priority became working on myself and being the best person that I could be. And if a relationship came, then great. And I think I was so detached also because I was a single mom, and I'm very black and white in certain things. So I like to be very accepting of people, but when it comes to me, I like to give myself like hard and fast rules. And how I looked at it was this: I can no longer date like I'm 20 years old, because I have a daughter. As a mother, my responsibility is to now raise her, not find my new man. And so if my priority was going to be her, then my priority couldn't be men. And so therefore my priority was taking care of my home, which was me and my daughter, and not trusting that a man would come along. And that's exactly what happened. We found each other online and not even on a dating app. Like, I get people finding each other on Bumble, but that was not even how it happened. And I think that's a testament to me leaning back and deciding that all I could control, the only variables that I could control, was what I did with my energy, with my mindset, with my emotional intelligence, and trust in my innate worth and trust God's plan that the right man was going to find me, and that I had to lean into that. And luckily for me, it worked out.
Yeah, and I just wanted to circle back as well, like for the men out there, when I was talking about before we met and I was in Bali and doing some healing, it was the first time in my life as well that I had my boundaries in place. If I was meeting someone in Bali, because I was openly dating there, and it's like, but if I was meeting someone that was not going to improve my life, I actually closed the door straight away. And that was the first time I got strict with my boundaries as well. And that's when I started to figure it all out. I'm like, that's how it works. And that's when I saw you online, and I started reading your posts, and I started seeing the depth to you. And I started talking to my business partner in Bali, Adam. This is the kind of woman I want to marry. You know, everything changed for me. And I started seeing more that it wasn't just physical. Like, there was a physical attraction, but it was just like, I heard your soul. And it was, I remember saying, I don't know what it is. I just need to meet her. And that's why I'm not persistent. I don't usually chase. I'm like, whatever, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. If we'll catch up, cool. I don't really pursue, but I was really courting you. I wanted to meet. And from your perspective, it was probably like, this guy just this guy's just creepy, just wants to get in my pants or something.
But it was God's timing, though.
But it was. I was just like, no, I need to see if this is real or not. Whatever this thing is, I just know I needed to meet you and see what it was. So it was like it was a soul calling.
Absolutely, I totally agree. And the crazy thing is if you hadn't pursued me like that, we wouldn't be together. Because I am not a first move type of girl. I am not even at all assertive in relationship because I'm assertive in my business. I consciously switch that off in relationship. And so for a man to pursue me, he needs to be confident. He needs to be masculine because I'm not the most inviting person just in terms of like my online presence. I'm not every photo is in a bikini. That invites men's attention. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's going to get a lot more DMs than somebody talking about emotional intelligence. You definitely pursued. And I think that was also not in your character because you're obviously a very handsome man. I discovered after, not that I discovered you were handsome later, but I discovered later just how much you had available to you. You had your pick of women. And I think that's another important thing because the questions in the comments and that I get from people online or just my clients, a lot of women, we focus so much on our looks, and our looks are important. And I'm a big advocate in micro luxuries. I'm a big advocate investing in your beauty, not because you're trying to impress someone, but because that comes from your sense of self-worth. You are worthy. It's when I tell our kids to brush their teeth, I'm like, brush your teeth because you love yourself. And you also will have white teeth and they will be clean and you'll have them for the rest of your life. But it's coming from a sense of self-love. But as women, whether it's, societal, family, we have been programmed that a lot of what we have to offer, and we'll get into this in some of the dating advice, but a lot of it comes down to our youth and our looks. And if we don't have that, that's basically, that's all we have. And so when women hit 30, all of a sudden, I even have friends that are in their 20s that are like, I've just turned 26, I feel old. And I hear them because so did I. I remember when I was 22, I thought 26 was old. I thought, okay, at 22, I can still have fun with my hair because I was a hairdresser, so I was doing all different colors and stuff. And I'm like, at 26, I'm going to get serious with my life because then I'll be a grown-up. 26 comes around, I'm like, I don't feel like a grown-up. So as we get older and once we hit that like 30 mark and then again at 40 mark and who knows what happens beyond there, but women start, well, I think we're always kind of comparing ourselves, but there's this perception of, well, men want these younger girls and therefore I can't compete. And the right man will, yes, of course he wants someone that looks nice and you should always make an effort for your husband. But if that's all you got, mama, like you're in trouble. Like if the only thing I could offer you was my looks, but I was a hot mess express, I was emotionally volatile all the time, I was constant drama, I didn't look after the kids, I didn't look after the house. Like I could be the most beautiful 22-year-old and it's just not it. So it's about knowing there's so much more to what women have to offer.